I'm not sure what's going on with this thing. I'm going to take over it manually to try to get this at least orientated to the front. But man, this thing does not want to go back to the base at all. Welcome back to another Jeff Reviews for you. And as you saw, we are looking at my 5 biggest problems that I had with the EcoFlow BLADE, one of which resulted in me returning this item. I'm also going to be walking you through the return process and boxing things back up. You know what? Enough talking about what we're going to do. Let's get right into this video. The first thing that frustrates me about the EcoFlow BLADE is the fact that I have to have the base station out with a clear view sky in addition to the antenna. I understand if I just had to have the antenna, that makes sense, and there's a wire connecting the antenna to the base. Why can't that just communicate? But nope, I have to have this out too. That's kind of frustrating because it takes away from my ideal placement. And since I'm right here, let me tell you about the second thing that's frustrating. Look at the EcoFlow BLADE's front eyes. Notice how they're red? That's because it's not charging. Although it's right here at the base like it's supposed to, not charging at all. I happened to pick up the app and look, and I had 2 device notices. 1, low battery, and it makes sense, it's at the base, but 2, charging pole of the charging station is dirty. What? I read into that a little bit more, and it said it could be dirty or burnt, and I need to clean it, otherwise it may charge abnormally. In my case, it's not charging at all. Now, this is the most frustrating part. I've had this now for about 3 weeks, and this has happened to me a total of 6 times, and I'll show you what I do to fix it. First and foremost, I take a wet paper towel and clean off the posts here. You can see there was a little dirt on there. And then I take a dry paper towel and do that. From there, I tip the blade over. I use my wet paper towel on one side, then the other. And now I bring my dry paper towel and clean it off. I flip it back over again, hit my 2 buttons, let it unlock, and then put it back to the charger.
Start charging.
Now my red lights have turned to green and I am charging. So you can't make this stuff up. It's actually been a day since I last showed you the charging posts. This thing has mowed the lawn and now it's come back to the base. Do you see the eyes? They're glowing red again. So of course I went and checked the app and it tells me to clean my charging posts. They might be burnt or whatever. So now this has happened to me 7 times out of the last 3 weeks. This is very frustrating. And maybe someone out there at EcoFlow is watching this video, but my thoughts are the location of the charging post being underneath the blade is probably not the best place, because sometimes this grass may be wet, and if any dirt or debris gets on them underneath the mower where it is, it might transport to the base and therefore not make a very good connection. In my opinion, future models might have to have that location changed where it's not going to have that direct exposure to the ground. I wanted to show you just an up-close view. See how there's grass all over it? That's what, in my opinion, is causing the trouble. And if this was not on the bottom of the mower, it may be better. Now that we're charging again, I do want to show you around the base. It's got very tall grass. Now this grass was short when I first put the base here, but I've noticed even though on the app it tells me that the blade is mowing this area, none of that grass has been mowed. So this is a spot you're going to have to go around and trim just to keep it looking nice and neat. Another problem that I found is that this is not always consistent. So right now the blade has driven right up into this random bush type thing. Typically the LiDAR sensor or the camera would avoid areas like this, but it did not. I can always use this as a restricted zone. I chose not to, thinking, man, this thing was not going to go there anyway. But I got a message onto the app saying the LiDAR sensor is blocked and this is paused and cannot go. So now I have to pull it out of here and let this thing go again. In my opinion, this is frustrating because if I weren't here, well, this thing would just sit here all day.
Start button to continue.
Now that I've taken it out, let's push the power button and start button and send it on its way. Over the month, I've noticed that the areas underneath the grate here really attract a lot of dirt and debris. Down here, there's a lot. This is just caked in and you have to clean it out. So it's important to make sure that stuff is cleaned out. Now we're going to walk through the return process. So first and foremost, you should know that I returned mine within the first 30 days. And although the EcoFlow website said I was going to have to pay like a $65 shipping fee, I didn't end up having to pay any fees. What I did initially is I emailed their support line saying, Hello, my name is Jeff. I bought the blade. I've been having XYZ problems. I told them mainly about my charging issues. I would just like to return it. They wrote me a message back saying, we are so sorry to hear about that. Would you please provide us with your serial number, which is written on the side of the box? So I did. Then they immediately sent me FedEx shipping labels and directions in an email. I should say that once I notified that I did not want it anymore and I gave them my serial number, they deactivated the blade wirelessly so it would not work anymore. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna walk you through the boxing of these things back up because it can be a little frustrating to try to figure it out. You can see that I have the original styrofoam and the box. So here's my one end on the sweeper bag. Now I'm gonna put the other end together. It just goes in like that. And this is actually the first piece that you're gonna stick in the box. So let's put it in the box and then we're gonna put the actual sweeper unit together as well. This is what it should look like in the box. Notice how I have like an angle on this side because this side's gonna fit the actual sweeper kit. Here is a simple assembly of the sweeper kit. Watch out not to break your styrofoam. Once you're all said and done, this now is going to meet that triangle all the way in. Now the whole kit is set up. Let's put the top on and print off our label. Now we're going to put the blade itself in its box. So the blade goes on the bottom, battery is still inside the unit. The top was a little more challenging. You can see that under here we have the long length of wire that went up the antenna. We have the spikes here at the bottom for the antenna along with the antenna pole. On this side you can see that we actually have the antenna top. All the stakes that were left over, including the ones I used. I did not include the broken ones because there are quite a few broke. We have our power supply, and I don't know if I mentioned it, but there's another cable on here. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna get the base and put it in. I just picked up the base and it was all muddy, so I made sure to spray it off and I'll let it dry before putting it in the box. But look at the mess it made to the lawn. I really wish I could have put this base somewhere else, which wasn't on the grass, therefore it wouldn't have killed the grass. Our last step is to put in the base and then throw in our EcoFlow top that it came with, close this box up, put the label on, and call FedEx. In this video, we are outlining my issues with the blade and then the return process, but I do want to talk a little bit about the blade itself. In my opinion, this mower may have been released too early without enough testing because I really do think it does a great job mowing what it mows. Yes, you're going to have to cut in and trim and do all those kind of things, but as far as mowing, this does a pretty decent job. I had issues with the app, none of which I brought up here because I've heard they've been updating the app, and that's one of the things I like about these kind of products is if you have issues, you can give feedback and then they can update the app. Most of my problems I had, I could have lived with, right? I could have lived with the long grass that I had to trim and cleaning it out and even putting no-go zones so that lie detector wouldn't have to be used. What I couldn't deal with was the charging. Even after I filmed, man, it happened almost every single day, and it was very frustrating to go out there and clean. When you spend like $3,000 for something, you don't want to have to babysit it. In the end, it did a good job mowing, but for me, the charging part was a deal breaker. Anyway, that was the entirety of this video. I do appreciate you sticking around. This is Jeff with Jeff Reviews for You. As always, thanks for stopping by and I hope you have a great day. I called FedEx, let them know I had a package to pick up. They picked it up a day later. It took about 6 days for transport, and then right after that, I got my full refund. The total time was about 8 days before the refund came through. I really do appreciate that you stayed around for my entire video outlining my difficulties with the blade and the return process. You know what? I've actually done a couple other robot lawnmower videos. One, I compared the blade to the Luba. I'm going to link that review right up here. And two, I actually reviewed the Momotion Luba, and I'm going to link that video right over here. And I would love it if you would click on one of those links. And when you do, by the magic of the internet, I'm going to join you right here or right there. So go ahead, click one. They're safe, I promise.